to News and Views with myself, Salailo Mokudiri. We're going to be switching gears now to a very, very important story. This morning on News and Views, we turn to a story that sits, I think, at the intersection of motherhood, war, and survival. While the world debates geopolitics, statistics, and ceasefires and the little details of what they mean, women in Gaza are raising children under bombs, under displacement and hunger. And one of them is Diana Shams, whose book, A Different Kind of Motherhood, was written not from a desk, but from a tent, a phone, and moments stolen between fear and exhaustion. Diana writes about carrying babies through fire, cleaning rubble instead of playrooms, and singing lullabies under a shaking ceiling. A motherhood the world really confronts. And today she joins us to help us understand what it means to mother through a war and why she believes these stories matter beyond borders, politics, and headlines. It's going to be a very, very intriguing and eye-opening conversation with Diana, and she's joining us via telephone. Diana, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on News and Views. Really, really appreciate you giving us your time.
Good morning. You're most welcome. Thank you for such an opportunity. I'm honored to share my experience as a mother in Gaza with you today.
No, the pleasure is all ours. I want to jump right into it. You write that before the war, you were worried about screen time and sugar, what you give to your kids before they go to bed, the typical concerns of any young mother anywhere around the world. When did the idea of motherhood or that idea of motherhood collapse for you, and what replaced it afterwards?
After experiencing the 2 years of war and being a mother in a war zone, I decided to write this book. I wrote this book because motherhood in Gaza is often invisible to the world. Behind every mother is a story of love, resilience, strength, fear, and sacrifice that rarely reaches to the international audiences. I wanted to honor the mother's courage in Gaza and to explain more that motherhood is different from in Gaza is different from anywhere else. Mothers
Mm,
around the world worry about motherhood itself and how to fulfill their duty as mothers, while here in Gaza we worry about survival, food, shelter, medicine, and clean water. Our motherhood here in Gaza is exhausting, more relentless, and deeply emotional.
mm, mm, most definitely. Um, there was something that is very, very eye-opening that while I was doing my research, I think it's an insert from your book. The fact that you mentioned that your book wasn't written in comfort, it was written in tense, it was written
Yeah.
in so much chaos around you, sometimes even on your phone. What compelled you to keep documenting even when survival alone was overwhelming? Why didn't you just say, you know what, let me focus on staying alive, essentially, instead of writing this book? Why was it so important for you?
It was important because I wanted to move beyond headlines and statistics. I always wanted the outside world to know more about the ordinary people, mothers in Gaza. I believe that people around the world only check news, only read reports, see headlines, but they don't know about the struggles and the everyday experiences that people in Gaza, especially mothers, are living through. They don't read about how mothers calm their children, how they protect them, how they distract them from the chaos outside. So I kept writing diaries in my phone, and one day after checking these diaries, I decided that after that we were displaced the time and I've left my home. So this time, after continuous displacement, I decided that I should write a book and I should let the world outside hear and read more about the struggles of mothers in Gaza. People around the world should read and hear more about motherhood because motherhood all around the world share the same love, the same dreams. Our love is spiritual to our kids. So I believe that mothers around the world would feel the pain because we share the same love. I didn't want
mm,
our stories and our voices to just be forgotten. I didn't want our voices to be silent. So I wanted to share it so people around the world to read more, and um, that people here in Gaza wanted nothing but raising their children in a safe zone in peace and let them be free, not raise them in a war zone. And that was a collective punishment for mothers here in Gaza and for the people that had nothing to do with wars. And
mm, mm.
yeah.
Diana, can you tell us a bit more about yourself, and your family, your children, and ultimately how October the 7th, 2023 changed your life forever?
I'm a mother of two young children. When the war started, my children, Rose and Kareem, Rose was just a newborn. She was just 7 months old, and Kareem was 4. Before the war, we used to live normally. We used to stay in my home in the north of Gaza Strip. My son used to go to school. We had an ordinary life, such as anyone in the world. We lived under blockade and faced so many restrictions, but at least we used to be safe.
Mm,
Our lives changed from the very next day, from October 8th, 2023, from the second day of war. I was forced to leave my home at dawn when we received a call that we have only 10 minutes to leave the apartment immediately. So I was displaced from the second day of war and left my home for a couple of hours, stayed homeless in the streets, slept in the streets along with my kids. I have nowhere else to go. So I returned to my apartment after a couple of hours to realize that it was extremely destroyed. They bombed a tower adjacent to my home. So my home was extremely destroyed. Destroyed. It was unlivable. So I was forced to hold my things and my kids' clothes, emergency things, and leave from the second day of war. So this war affected me from the very next day, and it made me homeless. It made me stay in the streets, and that what motivated me to document my story, to write, because I was just an ordinary mother sleeping with her kids. I had nothing to do with war, with the chaos around us. So motherhood in Gaza is different from anywhere else because mothers had to take their children and be displaced and pay the price and had nothing to do with such the chaos around her.
mm, mm. Is there one particular moment, since October the 7th that you experienced, that you won't forget particularly for whatever reason? Is there one moment that you look back to and say, this one is going to stay with me forever?
Yeah, definitely. There are so many moments, not particularly one,
Mm,
but what most affected me when I was displaced from my home at the second day of war, I went to live with my parents in the south of Gaza Strip, and after 2 months, we were forced to leave again to be displaced to live in tents, and that was a very hard experience to me to raise children, a newborn that has just started crawling, to raise her in a tent in an environment that doesn't suit raising children in such conditions. There was no clean water, there was no bathrooms. We had to stay in a crowded area full of tents. It was a very, very hard experience. I was physically, mentally broken. I had no strength and no power to raise my kids in such an environment. I've always built dreams to raise them in my home, safely, happily. We felt warm. we had a roof over our heads, and it was very, very scary at night when you are living in a tent and the bombs just go from above your head, and you have to get back. So if the bomb falls, you will be buried under the rubble. There is no roof to rescue us, and it was very, very a hard experience for me to live in tents and to raise my children in sand and mud. My daughter used to crawl, and her fingers were full of mud and sand. And this experience really affected me as a mother, losing her
mm,
home and forced to raise her children not in a home but in a tent. It was a very hard experience.
mm, mm. What kept you going, during these difficult times? What made you to not give up on yourself, to not give up on your kids, and to be able to again write and document these moments without completely falling apart?
Writing my own story alongside with other stories of mothers in Gaza. I've experienced mothers in Gaza that were my neighbors. I've seen pregnant mothers. I've seen single mothers raising their children their own. I've lost my cousins who were women, who were mothers. I lost my sister-in-law with her two young children, husband. All the family was erased. So I wanted to document our stories, our personal stories, because no one in Gaza has left in touch. Everyone has a story of loss, pain, and struggle, and the world should know about it and should read about it. And this war has done for the people of Gaza who wanted nothing but peace and freedom. Writing my story was my way of saying we suffered, we existed, we survived. It's not a storytelling, but a testimony.
Mm, mm, mm. Um, you write not only for yourself, and I think this is one of the most intriguing parts, but as you mentioned, for other mothers in Gaza, particularly mothers who have lost their children, who have lost their homes, and who have lost, their husbands and everything that they've ever known about their lives. How do you balance telling your own story while carrying the weight of so many other mothers, other women with you?
Yeah, as I've mentioned, that everyone in Gaza has a story. No one has left untouched. So when I was surrounded by too many mothers, as I've told, I was living in a crowded place full of tents. So every tent has a story. Every tent is a struggle. Every tent is pain. So I was surrounded by so many mothers, and I felt that it's my duty when writing my book and documenting my own story that I had to also document the struggles I've seen, the tragedies around me, the pregnant mothers who struggled to find nearby hospitals, to find newborn clothes, to find medicines. I've witnessed her screams, her crying when she was giving birth to a medical tent near us, and that her voices still echo in my mind. While writing my own story, I felt that it's nothing besides her story while she was forced to give birth in freezing nights in a tent. So I felt that it's my duty to document her story, and also to mention my sister-in-law that was killed alongside with her two young children, husband. She lost her parents-in-law, her husband's uncles. All the family was erased in a blink of an eye. The very beginning of the months of the war, they were just they were buried under the rubble. We didn't have the chance to greet them. We didn't have the chance to say the last goodbye. So I felt that I had to tell her story, because people only check reports and news. They don't know that we've lost loved ones. We still grieve. We still suffer to have the ability to overcome all of the pain and loss and horror that we've witnessed. I had to tell, and that was my way of honoring these mothers, honoring their stories, and to make sure that our stories, the voices matter, and it's not forgotten or silenced.
Mm. Very, very important. Um, I want to talk about, excuse me, the psychological warfare of raising children in a conflict, in a genocide, essentially. You described, calming children while the sky is falling. From your perspective, what does this constant fear do to a child's emotional development and to a mother's mental health? Children being bombarded, having drones flying over their heads, and having no one to turn to except their mothers. Having seen your children grow up in that environment, how would you say it has affected them?
Yeah. So I've always tried to control my feelings and to hide my fear, my sadness, because I deeply believe that the children are deeply moved and affected by their mother's mood. If I'm terrified or I'm scared, they feel the same. So I've always tried to keep my home's atmosphere calm. Whenever a bomb happens, the first thing they do that they look into my eyes. If they see me panic, or if I moved from my place, feeling terrified, shouting, screaming, they directly react the same. So I've always focused on their mentality, on their physical on their physical emotions. I've always wanted to make them feel you call mama. There's the sounds outside are just they are removing buildings they don't want, they no longer want, so keep calm. I've always turned up loud music, so I distract them by singing, clapping, drawing. I've always shared my videos on social media. My kids are dancing, clapping, and the people commenting, and how are you able to do this while the bombs are falling outside? That's my way of mothering. I didn't want my children to hear explosions, to hear buzzing drones. My daughter, whenever she hears the buzzing drone, she closes her ears. So it was my duty to provide the sense of calm, the sense of stability in my home. Here in Gaza, mothers have to do the double the protection, double the
Mm,
love, double the strength, and that what defines motherhood in Gaza. It's different from anywhere else. And children in Gaza have lost their childhood. Childhood here is a luxury. They have no access to electricity. For example, when the war started, my kid she was still a newborn. She never was introduced to electricity. She never knows what a TV is. She never knows what a clean water. We've always full our gallons from the water truck. She's happy when she sees a water truck because she knows that she will be able to have access to water. So they didn't have the chance to live normal and decent childhood. They've witnessed horrors, tragedies, and no child should face. And they grew up to see only fear, destruction, loss, and uncertainty. So whenever I go out, when the ceasefire happened, and my oldest son Kareem sees a destroyed building, or sees burned cars, or sees the guys around him, always wants to know the reason behind that. And this is what the mentality of the child. He has questions. He wants to know more. What happened to our city? What happened to these buildings? And these questions are very hard to answer for a mother. What should I tell to a child? Why are they bombing us? Why these buildings are destroyed? And he also lost loved ones. He lost his cousins, and he witnessed violence from a very young age. And he waits long lines behind water trucks instead of
mm,
lining up for school. That what defines motherhood in Gaza. They were deprived from their basic needs as school, education, medicine, water, and the basic life for a decent life. The childhood here in Gaza is truly a luxury.
mm, 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 mm. Yeah, Diana, thank you so much for painting that picture for us, our listeners here in South Africa. For anyone that would like to read the book, where can they find it? How can they go about reading it?
They can read the book from my Instagram. The link is attached in my bio. Diana Shams. It's DIANAASHAMS. This is my Instagram, and you can find the link of the book in my Instagram bio. And I hope readers realize that these mothers and children are not just victims or numbers. They are human beings with dreams, just like any family in the world. I hope this book encourages readers to look more closely at the everyday strength and resilience of mothers in Gaza.
Thank you so much, Diana Shams. Really, really appreciate you giving us your time, and all strength and prayers to you.
You're most welcome. Thank you for such an opportunity.
Okay, going to take a quick break. News and
You're
views
welcome.
continues after this.
In South Africa, countless numbers of sick patients